Okay, so imagine taking a paternity test behind your partner's back and finding out something that could change your entire life. Or what if you thought your coworker was sick, only to later see them on the news as a cold-blooded killer? The internet is a free and mostly anonymous place which leads to people confessing their deepest and darkest secrets. And stick around till the end when we're going to look at a story about someone who introduced their younger brother to drugs and had absolutely no regrets about the path it put them on. 2 years ago, we had a baby boy, and from the moment he was born, I felt like something was off. And it was obvious. Our child didn't look like us. That's never a great start, really, is it? I feel like a lot of parents have had that feeling when, even though they are 100% sure that that baby is theirs, there's just that little feeling of, what if they come out and they don't look anything like you? Now I get that children don't look like parents often and you have to wait to see how they look, but this was different. My son was blonde, blue eyes, with a very fair skin complexion. I am Mexican, my wife is Colombian. It kind of feels like we're adding 2 + 2 and getting 5 at the minute. We both have dark brown eyes, black hair and dark brown hair. Not only that, both of our parents have dark hair and brown eyes, with the exception of my mother, who has a hazel eye. All of our grandparents have dark hair, brown skin, and dark eyes. Okay, at this point I feel like we don't even need to get to the part where he takes the paternity test. I can already kind of tell what's going to happen. How was my child blonde, blue eyes, and fair? I had people tell me that a lot of babies are born with blue/grey eyes and darken up, and their skin and hair change vastly as well. So I waited it out and assumed the child was mine. But here we are after 2 years, and if anything, his eyes are more blue, more blonde, and even lighter skin. How have you waited 2 years? That's insane to me. Once again, putting myself in this person's shoes, I don't think I would have been able to wait 2 years. Especially in this scenario where you both have dark skin and the baby is very fair. I'm getting that paternity test on day 2, I think. Or I'm at least asking questions and saying, hey, look, this baby is very white, we are not, what is going on? Also, I don't know if anybody else is going to relate to this, but when they were talking about blue/grey eyes and brown hair, blonde hair, I got flashbacks to doing biology lessons in school when they would talk about genes. I just googled it and they're called Punnett squares, and I think, you know what, this actually is going to help here because it says brown eyes and brown eyes should equal both brown eyes. Don't ask me to explain it though, because it has been a long time since I was in school. But using my ability to read, I can see that brown eyes and brown eyes should also lead to brown eyes. I started getting comments on how he must be the mailman's son, or weird looks or jokes. I was once questioned at a park if the child I was playing with was my son. Oh man, that's actually heartbreaking. My wife is always being asked if she is the nanny, and it made me feel so angry. My wife never thought it was a big deal and would say people are just playing around, but I know some people think I'm raising another man's child. Something tells me that she doesn't think it's a very big deal, because she knows the truth. It started to wear on me. I had no reason to think my wife cheated on me other than his looks. It was eating me inside, and I took my son to get a paternity test without telling my wife. Well, it turns out he is 100% mine. I was so relieved, I wanted to show this to anyone who made comments or joked about my son not being mine. Okay, that really was not what I was expecting at all. Maybe my biology lessons were all wrong. But like he said at the beginning, I guess sometimes stuff like this just happens. You might both be brown and your baby comes out white. Unless maybe the mum isn't actually the real mum. I kind of understand why he did it behind her back as well, because he's saying that he didn't suspect her to be cheating other than the fact that the baby looked nothing like them. So I guess he wouldn't really want to come out and say, hey, you're cheating on me, and then risk, you know, blowing up the whole relationship and everything. What would you do though? Would you get the paternity test a lot earlier? Would you have got the paternity test the same time he did? Would you done it behind her back? Would you have told her? Anyway, let's see how he dealt with this afterwards. That night, I casually asked my wife if she would have been mad if I got a paternity test when our son was born, and she reacted very offended that I would even consider that she cheated on me. She said it would have affected our relationship negatively knowing I couldn't trust her. I played it off that I was joking, but now because of the paternity test, she was correct, and I had no reason other than the way he looked. Now I have replaced the feeling of doubt of my child with guilt. Now I feel like an insecure arsehole. I don't know if I should tell her or keep this locked away forever. This is very interesting because I can see both sides to this. I can see the guy's side where the son looks nothing like either of them, and you know, want to just clear it up in your head, is this baby definitely mine? But then at the same time, the wife is also right. If you go and get this paternity test behind her back, you are kind of saying that you don't trust her, so I get why she would be offended. And now he's in this place where he hasn't told her and he's done it behind her back, so he has the choice of coming clean, and obviously she will get upset about it, or just keeping it locked away forever and, you know, dealing with the guilt inside and risking her finding out by herself, in which she will be even more offended. Well, I reckon that you learned about recessive genes, yep. I definitely learned a little bit about recessive genes. I feel like we don't even need to get to the part where he takes the paternity test. I can already kind of tell what's going to happen. Brown eyes and brown eyes should also lead to brown eyes. I clearly was not paying attention at all in any of my biology lessons. I knew a boy who was half black and he had light tan skin, curly blonde hair, and green eyes. When he hit puberty, somehow, honest to God, it was like the black genes took over and his hair turned black, and now he truly looks like a black man. And here we actually have some more opinions that people have left. If you tell her, you will ruin your marriage. If you don't tell her and she finds out, you will ruin your marriage. I don't necessarily think that if he tells her, he will ruin the marriage. I think he obviously has betrayed her trust by going and doing it behind her back in the first place. But if you are open and honest and, you know, talk about the doubts that you had, and then obviously apologize for doing it behind their back, then, you know, maybe they will see where you're coming from and you guys can come to some sort of even ground. But I do agree that if he doesn't tell her and she finds out by herself, the marriage is definitely ruined. Wow, you better hide any evidence and hope she doesn't find out. A better way to go about it would have been, honey, let's get a DNA test so we can shut all those assholes down. I know he's mine, but I want to be able to stuff the proof down their throats and then side-eye her every time someone brought it up. I don't know about that one, really. Again, I think if he just came to her and was like, listen, I have a lot of doubts about this. We look nothing like the baby. Can we just do it so that I can, you know, shut my mind up? I feel like there's space there to be able to understand the anxiety that he's feeling, because obviously for her, she knows it's definitely her child. It literally came out of her. But for him, there's always going to be this little seed of doubt. And until he proves it to himself, it will always grow, or one day he'll just randomly forget about it. But let me know how you think he should solve his situation down in the comments below. Do you think he should just come out to his wife and tell her the truth about what happened? Or do you think he should shut up, delete the post, and never tell anybody about it ever again? My coworker called in sick, but I swear I saw him at a crime scene on the news. So this happened last week, and I still can't stop thinking about it. I work at this small office and we're a pretty tight-knit group, so when someone calls in sick, it's usually not a big deal. But my coworker Mark called in on Thursday with this over-the-top dramatic voice saying he had the flu and could barely move. I've been there before a million times. If any of my past employers are watching this video, please turn it off right now. Firstly, don't call in. Try and text or email them or do anything else but have to speak to them. And two, try not to use loads of details, because the more details that you use, the more stupid you're going to sound. It's a lot easier to just phone up and say, oh hey, I'm sick, than to say, you know, I've got this new disease that's come out and it's giving me nausea and I'm feeling a bit dizzy and my leg hurts and my arm hurts. That night I was eating dinner and half watching the local news when something caught my attention. They were covering a robbery at a gas station a few miles from my place. The footage was grainy, but they showed this dude in a hoodie and a mask sprinting out of the store. He was tall, had the same build as Mark, and the kicker, he had this distinct limp. Mark had twisted his ankle the week before. At the start, I was kind of thinking it was going to be one of those news pieces where they have like a wanted poster come up with like a police drawing and they were like, oh my God, that's my coworker. But seeing somebody in a hoodie and a mask running away and thinking that it's your coworker, I don't know, let's see where it goes. At first, I laughed it off. I mean, what are the odds, right? But then they interviewed a witness who said the guy drove off in a silver car. Mark drives a silver Honda. I started feeling that weird mix of disbelief and, oh crap, is this real? Let me just Google something quickly. Okay, so in the UK, the most common car colours are grey, black and white. Now, just to rule anything out, I'm going to also do America. Number 1, white, 25%. Number 2, black, 22%. Number 3, grey, 18%. Again, I don't know, just giving it the benefit of the doubt here, but a grey car is very common. That doesn't mean that your coworker is now a bank robber. The next day, Mark comes into work, walking perfectly fine, by the way. I casually asked how he was feeling, and he goes, oh, way better, just needed some rest. But here's the thing, he was weirdly specific about what he did while he was sick. Like, oh, I just laid on the couch, watched some Netflix, drank Gatorade. Nothing exciting. Saying that you lay on the couch and watch Netflix isn't really being that specific. Maybe if he was like, oh, I was actually watching Squid Game Season 2, Episode 5, and definitely not robbing any gas stations. Maybe that would be a bit too specific, but just saying that you laid on the couch and you were watching Netflix, I don't think that's that bad. And he drank Gatorade. I don't think that's really that weird to be doing when you're sick. That seems pretty normal to me. Now, I didn't say anything because what do you even say? Hey, did you rob a gas station? But I swear, every time I catch him glancing at me, it's like he knows I know. Friend, I'm gonna hold your hand whilst I say this, but I think you might be developing schizophrenia. Now, let me not even say that, but genuinely, I think this person just got a little bit paranoid because they thought their co-worker was a robber, and now everything is seeming to add up in their head. Kind of like when you get a new car and then you see that car everywhere and you think that everyone has bought the same car as you, but actually it's just because you've noticed this car a lot more since buying it. The kicker, yesterday someone brought donuts to the office and Mark joked, if I ever robbed a store, it'd be for these. Oh no. All right, I changed my mind. This man's a criminal. I take back everything I've said. In the last 10 minutes, this man robbed the gas station and he is rubbing it in your face. You need to run, you need to hide. Everyone laughed, but I couldn't even look at him. I'm not saying he did it, but I'm not saying he didn't. Those last two sentences have absolutely changed my mind. I now do believe that this man is a criminal, and I would like to know what you guys think. Is this man guilty, or is this man innocent? Mark knows you know, and he is going to end you very soon. Invite him over to the gas station one day as a casual conversation and see his reaction. You'll sort it out. I mean, even without the whole thinking he committed a crime and robbed the gas station, it kind of feels a little bit weird to go up to your co-worker and say, hey, do you want to go hang out by the local gas station? You know, we can like get gas and stuff. Actually, yeah, underneath this, someone said, how do you even invite someone to a gas station? Hey buddy, fancy doing something one night this week? Yeah, I know this really cool gas station on X Street. Let's check it out. If you think he did the crime, talk to the police. Aren't every gas station equipped with cameras? The police will know if it was a silver Honda or not. Yeah, but then you're like snitching on the homies, you know? You don't want to snitch on the homies. Okay, so now the last confession, and honestly, one of the most insane sentences I've ever read in my life. I started doing drugs really young and got my little brothers high for the first time when they were even younger than that. Absolutely no regrets. Now the saying goes, don't judge a book by its cover, but if we were to ignore that and, you know, judge this book, I would say this book sounds, very not nice. There's nothing quite like lighting your first cigarette at 5 years old. Can't really say that I relate to that. You know, at 5 years old, I think I was playing with diggers and trains. Not lighting up my first cigarette. The harsh burn in your lungs, the thrill of holding something you've only ever seen grown-ups use. For me, it was like being handed the keys to a secret club, one my dad had been president of for as long as I could remember. I don't feel like this is one many people are going to be relating to, you know. Don't think inviting 5-year-olds to the secret club where we smoke cigarettes is really a good idea. He didn't say much when he handed me that pack of Marlboro Reds. He wasn't the kind of man who explained himself. I'd been fetching his smokes for him since I could walk, balancing the heavy pack in my little hands like it was treasure. By the time he was 7, he trusted me enough to light them for him. I'd sit there watching the cherry glow as I held it out for him, feeling like I'd been given a job no one else in the world could do. You're not gonna choke, are you? He asked me one day, cigarette dangling from his lips as he adjusted the carburetor on his rusted out Chevy. He didn't wait for me to answer before flicking his lighter. I took a drag like it was nothing, coughed so hard I thought my lungs might burst. "Atta boy," he said, laughing as he patted my back. "You'll get the hang of it." I don't think this is a story that the internet really should be reading. I kind of feel like this was more meant for your therapist. Like, this is feeling a teensy weensy bit traumatic, and you know, I don't know if it's exactly the thing you should share with random strangers. Fast forward 11 years and I was the one teaching the lessons. By then I'd graduated from cigarettes to weed and from weed to all under my dad's easygoing supervision. I don't know if I should even be reading this myself. I really feel like my eyes were not meant to see this. Just before I carry on, obviously, this is not great. Really hope this person's doing a lot better than they are now, because if your dad's caught you doing meth, He's not a great person, is he? And I honestly feel really bad for them. I was 16, full of energy, and as far as I was concerned, it was my turn to run things. My little brother had just turned 5. He was the spitting image of me at that age, wide-eyed, full of questions, always hanging on my every word. I saw myself in him, and I figured if my dad could teach me, I could teach him. I made a big deal out of his first cigarette, took him out to the car after school, handed him the pack and showed him how to hold it between his fingers. This is devastating. You should be trying to break the cycle, not continue it. This is how you grow up, I said, lighting it for him. He coughed so hard I thought he was going to puke, but he kept going. Don't choke, I said, mimicking Dad's words. You'll get the hang of it. By the time he was 6 years old, Drew could blow smoke rings like a pro. We'd sit in the car every afternoon, windows cracked just enough to keep the air from choking us, smoking and laughing like we were kings of the world. Part of me is starting to think, and honestly I really hope I'm right, but I'm starting to think that this one is not true. Just by the way they're writing, it's feeling kind of, like fantasy and booky. I don't know if booky is actually even a word, but it sounds like it was written as a story that's made up by someone, and I really hope it is. Because this next sentence says, by the time Drew turned 6, he was ready for more. He'd seen me trip on acid a dozen times by then, and one night he asked if he could try it. You sure you're ready for this? I asked, watching him with a mix of pride and curiosity. I'm not a baby. That night we split 15 hits between us. Okay, yeah, this is not true. I'm sorry, but if you actually gave a 6-year-old 7.5 hits of acid, I don't think they would be with us, if I'm being honest. I mean, giving most people acid can put them in a really bad way, so if you gave it to a child, that's going to massively affect them. So yeah, I'm choosing that this story is absolutely fake and not true in the slightest. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. We had our rituals, cigarettes after dinner at the Chinese restaurant, passing the pipe around in the car before school, tripping on acid in the living room while Mum smoked in the kitchen. We weren't a normal family, but we were a family. Drew worked 30 hours a week while pulling straight A's, and Caleb aced every math test he ever took. Sure, we were hooked on nicotine by the time we hit double digits, but we laughed about it, calling it the family curse. Honestly, like I said, this is not a true story, but yeah, what the fuck. Even Dad quit trying to hide his grin when he caught us smoking on the porch. Give over, brother. Give absolutely over. I don't regret a damn thing. We're not perfect, but we're proud of who we are. Life's messy and it doesn't come with a manual. We did the best we could with what we had, and if that's not enough for some people, that's their problem. At the end of the day, we've got each other, and that's more than most people can say. If I'm being honest, mate, I don't really think you do have each other, because if this is true, and it absolutely is not true, you gave them drugs. I would not consider that to be having each other's back. Having each other's back might look more like, trying to push your brothers away from the path you're on if it is so damaging and dangerous. And also, just because you say life's messy and it doesn't come with a manual, doesn't give you free reign to just start doing drugs with 6-year-olds. But anyway, leave your thoughts in the comments about whether or not you think this story is true or it is just absolutely fantasy, because to me, this reads like a made-up story. And let me know what you thought about the other ones, because the paternity test story at the start was mental, and I really wish there was an update to it so we could find out what the guy chose to do. Like, did he end up telling his wife the truth about what he did, or did he just hide everything behind his back and just move on as if it never happened? And then we had the co-worker who robbed the gas station, which I now absolutely believe because of that absolutely sick and twisted joke about the donuts that he told. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought about all of the confessions that we've read today, and whether or not any of them are true, because after this last one, I'm starting to question everything. Also, if you want to support the channel and keep the lights on around here, you can now become a channel member, and I believe it's only like 99p a week, so it's not much, but it'll definitely help us out here, and it'll show your support, and you'll have my everlasting gratitude. Obviously, you don't have to do that at all. I'm not expecting anybody to, so you can always just, like and subscribe so that we can see each other next time. But if I don't ever see you again, see ya.